In today's video, we're going to be diving into things. We have a whole lot of storminess to discuss in the upcoming pattern across the nation, but we will, just like yesterday, be also taking a pretty big deep dive into the tropics as we have multiple potential areas of interest to watch and potential cyclones, actually, which is really going to be interesting. We have increasing probabilities from our European probability model, so we'll look at that in a little bit as well. Just a whole lot to discuss. So let's dive into things. I don't want to bore you guys. Let's take a look at tomorrow afternoon, just the kind of weather happening around the nation. And we do see there is some showers and thunderstorms happening around areas along your Rockies and some of the northern plains here. These are the main areas to watch, as well as your deeper south east kind of areas here, all the way from Texas and Oklahoma eastward to the Carolinas. That is kind of going to be the areas where we're experiencing a lot of thunderstorms. Kind of to point out some drier areas, we're looking along the west coast for some drier conditions, and then kind of the Great Lakes into the mid-Atlantic and northeast. Those are your two quietest areas there for tomorrow afternoon. As we reach towards Sunday afternoon, we see that we still see the Rockies and plains dealing with some relatively active conditions. Also a pretty strong low pressure system between South Dakota and Nebraska, definitely stirring up some interesting weather. We also do see that there is a whole lot of thunderstorms and showers happening here across the south central, deep south, southeast, and even stretching up the upper Midwest, like Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa. They're seeing some thunderstorm chances in that pocket as well. Let's take this even further towards Monday on July 29th, and we see that a lot of the activity kind of just bands together here for the eastern states. We're seeing a drying trend here for the Rockies and some of the plains. And overall, we see most of your storminess for the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, your mid-Atlantic and southeast areas here, as well as the deeper south, and still the south central states. So a lot of the east, I guess I could have just said to make things shorter, a lot of the east dealing with some storms. We do see that the Pacific Northwest is seeing a storm system move through. That is definitely going to be something to watch. More persistent rainfall. Typically, we don't see as many thunderstorms out here as much as we see just showers and heavier rainfall that's a little bit more persistent out there. That seems to be a lot more common. For Tuesday on July 30th, we see that this moves even further eastward. We're seeing the East Coast really at the heart of things. We do still see some for the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and deeper south, and even some areas to the south of the Hudson Bay there in Canada seeing some interesting storms as well. We do see here in the Pacific Northwest, again, showers, maybe some thunderstorms happening, so a little bit of an expanded area of storminess out there for the Northwest by, again, Tuesday on the 30th. Let's take this towards Wednesday the 31st, and we see thunderstorms really booming here for the East Coast. Maybe even a stretching minor cold front underneath this low near the Hudson Bay up here. Might not be, sometimes we see these stretching area of storms underneath lows that aren't necessarily a cold front. We'll have to take a look at the temperature pattern in a little bit and see if this has some cold air push behind it, but I'm leaning towards really not at this point. Upper Midwest and Northern Plains, we do see a weak low over South Dakota, bringing some thunderstorms to some of those central provinces of Canada and some of the north central states there as well. Northwest, however, a little bit slowing down, although there is some isolated showers still overhead. Let's take a look at Thursday here on the 1st of August. Can't believe we're already talking about August now. And really, our final month of meteorological summer. September being the first meteorological fall month. Meteorological fall starts on September 1st as opposed to like the September 21st date. And as far as weather is concerned, the meteorological dates are going to actually correlate a lot more with the patterns for most areas. September through November is going to feel a lot more fall time. I don't know about you, but December doesn't feel like fall at all. And the majority of fall, or the majority of December is calendar fall. Although to me, December is definitely fully a winter month. So is January and February. And then March, it starts to become spring-like pretty early on in some places, etc. So I like this, the September 1st, December 1st, the March 1st, and the June 1st format for the meteorological seasons. It's going to correlate a lot better with the actual weather seasons as opposed to just those calendar ones. Now, as we take this or I don't even think I blabbered on there. We didn't even we didn't even talk about the weather here for August 1st. So let's take a look at it. Upper Midwest and Great Lakes, seeing some thunderstorms around, and still some lingering thunderstorms here for the East Coast. Although Wednesday was a little worse, it looks like. Thursday dying down a little bit. We can see quite a bit of this offshore, which we do need to watch. I've been talking about this for a few days now, but areas like this over these very warm waters, we need to watch for some chance of low pressure systems forming and potential tropical activity, especially as we move into August. We're going to move more into the prime time of year for tropical development. So definitely things to watch for. Here is Friday, August 2nd. And again, looking like we do get actually a little minor area of development. It doesn't fully develop, but it does actually intensify from that August 1st time frame. We still see some thunderstorms prevailing mostly for the East Coast and some of the upper Midwest here again. Very, very quiet out west though. For Saturday, August 3rd, we do have some areas of tropical kind of interest here for a lot of the Caribbean, some of the Gulf of Mexico as well. We don't see from this European model, at least, a developed tropical system, but like I told you yesterday, we really aren't paying as much attention to the specifics as we are more of just the overall pattern that we're seeing from these models, which in this case, I mean, we're seeing a ton of moisture in these areas, which will elevate the chance of development regardless. We do see some areas of thunderstorms for some of the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and along that kind of Gulf and East Coast. We also see for New England a little bit of that as well. So quieter, but we do have some pockets of storms for sure. Sunday, the 4th, still quieter, but a lot of areas in the east are seeing chances of thunderstorms, it looks like. Just not too elevated at this point. And then for Monday, the 5th, we don't get all the way to the afternoon, but it does look like this eastern corridor will once again be an area to watch. Let's take a look here at the total precipitation. And again, east of the plains is really your area to watch. Northern Plains and upper Midwest into the Ohio Valley and some of the deeper south and southeast. Although we have seen these areas in particular really lower. Maybe some of these areas in the middle are staying pretty close to the high amounts they were expecting, but this is much receded from our major storm that we've recently seen, and we actually are seeing a lot more of a surge in the upper Midwest, Northern Plains into the Ohio Valley. I would say is the primary area to watch here now, according to the models. When we look at the precipitation anomalies, which aren't here, so let me pull this up actually. Forgot to put that one on there. Let's see. Yes, if we just dive into this, there's so many of these. I usually don't do this way, but here we are. Yeah, 15-day anomaly. Here we go. Perfect. So we do see that these areas in the middle are still seeing some above average precipitation, especially Tennessee and surrounding states. We still see a pretty highly above average amount expected. But if you guys remember, I mean, we had widespread dark greens and blues throughout the entire kind of southeast corner of the nation. So still, if you're looking at the region-wide totals here, this is a much receded amount. We're actually seeing below average amounts for some of Texas and Oklahoma and some of the Carolinas up through some of the mid-Atlantic. So far receded from what we were once seeing just a couple of days ago. And I kind of called for this. Some of you may have watched the video, some of you may have not. But I was saying that after these big storms were kind of done and after this very stormy pattern was done, I was seeing some signals at some drier weather for these areas. And once we see these storms kind of come to a end here or halt over the next 2 or 3 days, I'm suspecting that a lot of these areas will be in the brown category, which I'm not really hoping for. You know, I like storms this time of year, and it's unfortunate, but definitely looking a little bit drier in my opinion upcoming. Especially for the plains, we're seeing a big dry trend here as well, noting. Now, the temperature pattern, we're definitely cooler right now. We do see a warming trend here, especially starting August 1st, which is interesting, right at the month's end. And I've always noticed through the years, I think I've been doing direct weather like 5 or 6 years now, which is crazy, but it's always like the first of a month, we'll see a big pattern flip. I don't know how it's so perfect like that. There was a long time where we saw a lot of our major snowstorms and severe weather events also always landing on weekends somehow. So it's funny how it works sometimes. I've noticed that a lot of our events have been midweek now, so it does change up, obviously. But it is interesting, and we do see a big flat pattern flip here on August 1st, bringing those warmer temperatures. But look at this. Around the 7th, 8th, 9th, we get another backdoor cold front look here from Canada. Moving into the eastern states, potentially cooling things back down after that first week of August is wrapped up. So Definitely the 7th and beyond, looking maybe at some signs of cold, although this is beyond 10 days out, so we will take it with a grain of salt and track it further over the coming pattern, but I think it is interesting to say the least. Let's just dive into the tropical activity, and regardless of what the European models showed, our European AI model still shows a lot of tropical invests here across your MDR, which is short for main development region. And also, we still get a major tropical cyclone near the east coast later on. So let's watch this very closely. Again, multiple invests to work with, and right around August 1st, again, a kind of interesting date that we're watching for multiple things, we get this little invest here north of Puerto Rico, and this one wants to move towards the Bahamas or maybe just to the north of it. So let's watch this play out, intensifying the whole way. Yeah, kind of scraping the northern Bahamas, all the while kind of intensifying. It kind of curves before hitting the southeast coast, which again, don't pay too much attention to the specifics. This could look a lot different, but obviously this would be great news if it dodges these areas. But regardless, it's definitely something to watch. And this is right now, what we're looking at right here is the 10-day mark. So everything before this is within 10 days from now, which is reasonable time frame to be looking at signals, of course. Now we see this really intensify, but it never really hits land there. Maybe up there in Newfoundland, the very east coast of Newfoundland, hitting as a relatively strong storm, eventually going towards Europe, but very interesting. And, you know, we do see this wave is currently right here, actually. A lot of this energy is expected to move across the MDR, at which case we could see a lot of different things happen. It could move north of here. We could see it slide further south, although the trend is north of those islands. Typically, this is worse when they move north of here. I've noticed that storms have a very easy time developing right in this pocket here to the north of Puerto Rico, north of Dominican Republic and Haiti, and throughout the Bahamas. That seems to be a very bad hotspot, as well as just to the south of them. The only thing is that they move too far south, we kind of get into this hurricane graveyard in the southern Caribbean, where things are very dry in this area typically. So they need to be very close to these islands, regardless, to develop pretty far oftentimes. But regardless, again, big turning point in here, whether it's located here, south of there, along the islands. We'll be tracking this closely, but this is a pretty decent signal, and I'm watching it closely here. We see it really pop off here as soon as next Wednesday. So less than a week from now, we see it just to the north of those kind of very far eastern Caribbean islands. So definitely something to watch in the near term. As far as the probabilities of tropical depression, according to your European ensemble model, yesterday I think we saw a peak of 30 to 40. Now we're seeing 40 to 50 in a lot of areas, and even 50 to 60 in those yellows to the north of Haiti, Dominican Republic, Cuba, and right near Puerto Rico. What's interesting is that, again, the European AI model, we saw it kind of creep like this would be the path that we saw there. I'll draw it in red, where this model is showing it. It's kind of a creep southward through those eastern Caribbean islands, south of Puerto Rico, maybe hitting Dominican Republic, somewhere in there, and then maybe aiming more towards Florida. So again, that's why the specifics aren't too important, because we are seeing a wide discrepancy between these models. We are seeing very different outlooks, and that's why things are definitely important to look at, but the details are definitely something that's going to be worked out. I'd say the main thing is that we have something developing in the MDR and moving west and relatively good chance of development. That's the agreement that we have here, and that's the main takeaway. Also, note that the southern Caribbean here near Central America, we do also have a 50 to 60% chance of tropical depression status. And real quickly, tropical storm status, we actually do have a little bit of it near the Bahamas. This obviously goes up over time if confidence increases, but we are just beginning to get 10 to 20% chance of tropical storm status popping up here. So this European model, and there's a lot of members, by the way, so this is an ensemble. We have a lot of members at play here, many of which are showing tropical depressions, tropical storms popping up near these areas, again, around that early August time frame. So definitely something we're going to be watching very, very closely. You should definitely keep up to date with the channel. We will keep you updated, so be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.